So how do you select the ideal location for location of your backyard garden? Because there are times when you find a farmer has selected a site within the backyard of his house to use as a space where he's going to do backyard gardening, but on trying to plant some crops there, the crops don't thrive at all, and then they're left wondering what could have gone wrong with the crops. While in actual sense, it could be that they selected a wrong site within the backyard of their house where they're going to do the backyard gardening. So welcome to the channel. If you have not yet subscribed, consider subscribing so that you get tips on establishing a backyard garden within the behind side of your house, which you can actually use for growing some vegetables and some other plants for your own diet. So ideally, the location you select for situating your backyard garden should be a location that should be receiving adequate sunshine so that your plants can synthesize their nutrients through photosynthesis with the help of that light from the sun. And remember, that process of photosynthesis is of course what gives plants their ability to make the nutrients which they use and then which they thrive on. And the more the sunshine the area gets exposed to, the healthier the plants will be, because of the fact that this sunshine is the principal contributor to the process of photosynthesis, and therefore you just realize that your plants will grow healthier if you locate your small backyard garden in an area that receives adequate amounts of sunshine. So from this my backyard garden, you can see that the area where my plants are growing is not actually covered excessively by any shade. You may see some trees in the neighborhoods, but those don't provide too much of shade to my plants to the extent of actually interfering with their growth. So whichever the area that you select, whichever the side of the house that you decide to situate the backyard garden, ensure that that area actually receives adequate amount of sunshine to facilitate the good growth and development of the plants within the backyard. And you'll easily know that your plants are not receiving enough sunshine when you see that the plants are leggy. And by leggy, we imply the plants which grow just very tall, but the leaves are very thin or to some extent not well forming. So when you see plants in an area where you've selected as your location of your backyard garden growing in a very leggy way, just know that it's sunshine which they're lacking, and therefore try to change the site of your backyard garden if you still have some other space within your compound where you can locate your backyard garden in another trial. And then another thing that helps you to identify that the area where you've planted or where you've situated your backyard garden is not receiving adequate amounts of sunshine is when you see that the leaves are very narrow on your plants. Especially if it's vegetables, the leaves should be broad enough if they're receiving enough nutrients from the soil, and also if they're receiving enough sunshine. But when you see that the leaves are very narrow on your vegetables, then it automatically implies that they are actually receiving less amounts of sunshine, and therefore that's an indicator that the location of your backyard garden needs to be considered so that you change it to another area where you have more exposure to sunshine for your plants so that they can grow healthy and therefore give you a good supply of fruits and vegetables or any other plant material that you grow within your backyard. Then You may also want to consider whether that area would be receiving adequate rainfall when it actually rains, because of the fact that it's not always that you'll be able to be watering your plants and doing some sort of small backyard irrigation. So the area should also be capable of receiving water from the rain when it finally rains, and therefore that area should be relatively slightly some distance away from the main house, so that the roof of the house doesn't provide some shade and therefore prevent the receiving of water through rain by the plants within your backyard. So this area which I've selected here receives the rain directly, and that rain of course is the one which predominantly helps to water these plants. Sometimes when it doesn't rain over a period of days, I just take a small improvised watering can from the house and spray out or water out the soil in this area, so that the soil doesn't completely dry out and cause death of the plants which are growing in here. So that's another critical factor which you are going to consider when selecting the location of your small backyard garden. And then another important critical factor is that you should also consider the farm animals which you have within your home. Some of the farm animals, for example, if it's chickens, there are times when you let them to be free range, especially if they're just few. If they are free range, then ensure that when you release them from their cage or from their coop into the free spaces within your compound, they don't have free access to the plants and vegetables which you've planted within your backyard there. If you allow them free access, automatically you know that they will come and cause disaster there, because they will eat all the leaves or peck on some of the leaves there and therefore cause you a lot of losses. So you'll want to control which areas you'll want your farm animals to actually browse when you let them to be free range at times. Or if you're keeping your chickens, for example, in total free range, then ensure that the area where you have planted your crops in the backyard is protected using a small wire mesh through which the chickens will not cross into your garden and cause you a lot of disaster. That's a very critical factor. If you're keeping things like goats, if you're keeping animals like goats, then there you'll have to take even more care and more precaution, because you know goats can easily run over a small wire mesh fence and then enter your backyard garden and cause total disaster there. So you may want to consider such as critical factors for your area where you locate your backyard garden. So consider subscribing to the channel so that you receive more tips. Give a like, comment on other areas you'll want me to cover with another video, and also share with your friends so that they get tips and additional information on how to do backyard farming for their own vegetables and fruits, which they can then subsequently use in their diet. So if you have not yet subscribed, that subscribe button is not very far from your hand. Just subscribe so that you continue getting more updated videos on backyard farming tips. Thank you.